Right then, welcome back to the channel. Just a little bit of a tester there, just make sure everyone was having it. How are you doing? Stephen Howson, Ronaldo Brown.
Yes.
Welcome back to XG Files, you okay?
But we're all good now? Audio perfect? Does it need raising a little bit? Yeah. You know, the comments usually tell you. You can't ever fully judge because some people might just have different mics, different
Well, we are a little bit late today because the studio was locked.
Yeah, the studio was locked, which was a bit of a problem, but do you know what? We're not going to bore you because we've had you waiting. We haven't got too long as well, so we are going to get into it because you do have a right moan in it when we talk too long about other shit, don't they? They feel like we brew it up a little bit sometimes, the XG. Yeah,
but you know what? Sometimes it's worth talking about. I mean, you know, we might not touch on Real Madrid and Jude Bellingham being clutchiest of clutch. With a last-minute winner. We might touch on that. We might not touch on that.
Yeah, we can talk about it 100%. But first and foremost, we've got to talk about the usual, which is it's becoming an all too common theme now. Of as soon as there's a little bit of a slip or an issue in form at Manchester United, where obviously there's a lot of scrutiny, there starts to be media reports. You don't know whether they're true or not. Whether there's sometimes when there's smoke, there has to be a little bit of fire. Of the players being a little bit losing faithy in the tactics and the system. But I am so irritated hearing that because I feel like I've been hearing that for about 5-6 managers since Fergie now.
I was going to say, yeah. When you were saying 5 or 6, I thought you were going to say years. I was going to say it's more like 10.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm irritated. Oh, you're losing faith in the system, are you? Guess what, lads? I've lost faith in you. Like, I'm sick of you. You lot don't have the right to be sick of any manager. He's dead, mate. Don't worry about it. Ronnie's laptop's just died. You lot have not earned the right to have an opinion on anyone's tactics. How about that? Because otherwise, we're all going to start having opinions on your performances. And guess what, lads? Abjectly not good enough. They complained about Louis van Gaal making them train so that they end up driving home in the dark. Lads.
They complained that the training was too intense under Erik ten Hag. Obviously, the injuries did suggest that. I think that they couldn't really deal with the intensity. But you look at the way that United get overrun by most teams now. You're kind of thinking that some of that might have been needed. And is that just down? It's a combination of things. It's a combination of recruiting players without the right mentality, but then also recruiting players that can't keep up with the physical demands of elite football nowadays. It's so many facets of United just going wrong, but I'm sick of the constant reports of players just being unhappy with the managers and giving up quite quickly. You know what? If you put yourself in the player's shoes, all right, the performances aren't great. You're seeing a lot of scrutiny. You're losing to teams that you think you should beat. You're playing in a system you've not played before. Maybe there might be some natural inclination to be a little bit like, oh, shit, can we just try something else and see if it works kind of thing. You might have a little bit of that, but I think there's still things you see on the pitch that don't seem to do with formation. It just seems to players not being able to run far enough, not being able to run quick enough, and even just executing basic actions like finding each other, your player.
Can you win your duels?
Can you?
Like, what's that got to do with system? There's nothing in to do with can you battle enough to tackle that player? That's got nothing to do with the system. That's got nothing to do with philosophy. That's got nothing to do with shape. That's just you winning your individual battles. And that's a universal truth for football. It doesn't matter what your system is. It doesn't matter what your shape is. If you win your battles, generally, you're going to have more positive performances than negative performances. And look at the smallest player on the pitch, often, for United, Amad Diallo, is the guy winning the highest percentage of his duels all the time. And is he playing well? Yeah. Is that because of the system? No, it's just because he's actually digging in a little bit.
And also another question I can put to you: if they are unhappy with the tactics and the system and feel like it's not getting the best out of them, what were a majority of these players playing like in the previous system and previous formation? Not much better. So
when they got the last guy sacked.
So I feel like they've lost a little bit of leverage for that because
a lot of leverage, I would say, actually. Just like. If you can go and find these reports for every single manager, including Moyes, actually, that they've all moaned. Here's the problem. You're too quick to complain about what that manager's doing and what that manager's doing, but you're not quick enough to look in the mirror and say, am I doing enough? Are my teammates doing enough? Because I'll tell you right now that the answer is no, we're not. And if they switch that, you can be successful despite a manager. You can be like most and I'll say this, most of the managers and I think Moyes is the exception to this. I think Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, even Ralf Rangnick, Erik ten Hag, and Ruben Amorim, they know enough about football to set up a team to play football and be successful. Right? I believe that to my bones. They might not have been the perfect guy. They might not have been the best guy. But I believe, by and large, they've all been capable enough to set up a team to win football matches. So why hasn't it not worked? I think recruitment is an issue. I don't think the team necessarily is as good as people think it is or should be. But at the same time, I think these players, by and large, have let themselves down.
And it's just... What's happened? Is it some sort of juju? Is it dark magic at this point? And it feels like we can't have good things.
And by the way, I'm annoyed that it came out on the day that we're burying Dennis Law. Like
because that was another angle of it. Is how true is it, the report anyway? Because you never know it. It was,
and it can also be one guy. So whoever the journalist is that broke it, I'm not even sure which journalist it was.
It was Nathan Salt and Daily Mail kind of faction.
It could be one player. I'm not even gonna guess at who it is, but like it could have just been one player. Like you speak to one player, who is it? It's the 9th choice goalkeeper, right? Okay. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes, but then it gets reported as Man United.
I think that might have been the worst example you could have used, a goalkeeper where no matter what system, their role remains the same. Where it's a 3-5-2, a 3-2-1, not 3-2-1, a 3-2-5.
That's the point.
Do you know what I mean? A goalkeeper.
It can be one player that's just, you could go and find, you can go to Liverpool at the moment and find someone not happy with Slot. You can go to the team top of every single league and there's always a player in every single squad that's not playing, not getting minutes or not quite having it.
Do you know the issue with that is though? I think the way that football teams are set up and clubs and just team sports in general, in terms of how important unity is, I feel like even one person or two people that are not buying into the system still has a bigger impact than you think.
Yeah, I agree.
You can have 16 players, and if one or two are a little bit iffy about it, you're only as good as your weakest link at times, and that can actually bring the rest of the team down. The best teams in the world and the teams that win the best things, you can vividly see like everyone buying in, and there's that camaraderie and there's that unity between the manager and the players, and you can tell like there's not one player that's kind of like outside of that culture.
And one player can bring it down.
Yes.
You made there was a good line that you said in there, and it's a line that I don't think people take on board. I think people look at it 180 degrees different. I think people look at teams and go, we have to get better at the top. We have to get that guy in. Even if we have a good person in this area, we can get a better guy in that area. Actually, the thing that you need to do is you need to raise the floor, not the ceiling.
Yes.
I think you lose games on the mistakes of the most error-prone player. I think you lose games and you throw away title runs or you end up 13th in the table because of the weak links in a team, not because of the... People always want to be like stretch the top end.
Yeah, the shining.
Yeah,
yes.
you gotta lift. You gotta fix the squeaky wheel every single time. What is the one place this is falling down? And I think for the moment at United, I think it's culture and mentality. I don't think there's enough winners. I think we've hired some players recently that have got the right mentality. I think the likes of Mazraoui, De Ligt, Martinez. I think there's players there with Ugarte. I think these are good mentality players. We need more of those players. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Diallo's been here a while, but I think he's another one that I can rely on. Whether you agree with the way he plays the game, I still think Bruno's got a good mentality.
Yes, and I think I said on the podcast on Monday, I think history is going to be very kind to Bruno, I believe. I feel like because he's in with this muck over the last 5 years, I think his individual performances, as appreciated as they are, might not actually be appreciated enough until we look back in a few years and realise that he's the only player that we've seen at the club in 10 years kind of almost rise beyond and not get like dragged down to the level of everyone else. And it kind of makes you think, what could he have achieved in a team that was slightly better? And then, like sometimes the issues that we have with Bruno when it's his petulance and he can be a little bit of a moaner and people think he might not be a leader. It's because he's had to carry so much burden as United's best player over the last few years that maybe sometimes it does get to him a little bit. Where he does moan and I think that's what it is.
I just think that's his personality. But I think if you was trying to evaluate him without the lens of this petulance, because there's been so many petulant players that have been classed down the years. There's so many players that you might have to walk on eggshells about the way you talk to them and that at times.
Yes.
And some players that you have to treat a little bit differently. At the end, it's the same when people start talking about what they're wearing. Couldn't care what they're wearing. I don't think it matters. I think people focus on the wrong things. But what you go with Bruno Fernandes, is he always fit?
Yes.
Yes. Do
Always
you
available.
question his effort when he's on the pitch? No. Do you question whether he's trying to win every single game? No. He ain't the problem. There's so many more problems in the team than Bruno Fernandes.
100%.
He's not the problem. Do I think he's got that stoic, manly way of leading like Roy Keane used to have or Vidic used to have? No. He's a different guy. It's not necessarily better. It's not necessarily worse. It's just different. The way he leads is just the way he is.
It's different, but you made a good point though. We hear these big names that these players want, like it's FIFA career mode and to kind of like stretch the ceiling of the team, when I think raising the floor, which has been said repeatedly, is probably even more important. I think United are better off getting 3 or 4 players that can perform consistently at 6 or 7 out of 10 at the very, very least, week in, week out. They'll be better off doing that rather than just getting one player. That's mega. That's a potential 8 and a 9 on most weeks,
like
and there isn't. Do
you know
what I mean? And I think United will be better off with the 3 or 4 players that come in and are pretty at least solid every single week.
Do you know who I'm thinking in my head when you're saying that? Amadou Onana. I'm thinking Onana.
Onana. That ship sailed. He went Villa, hasn't he? He's went Villa.
I still think he's a player that you got to look at and think,
we're not getting him out of Villa. Villa have ascended.
Probably with them being a Champions League club,
they're
probably
Champions
not.
League club.
But when I'm thinking who do I think could go to war with? Can you imagine him and Ugarte as a midfield pair?
He was one or the other in the window though.
Yeah, probably.
Do you know what I mean? And I think the issue that Amadou Onana's found though for Villa is he's been very injured this season. And I think that's always a bit of a...
I wonder, is that...
peg down.
Yeah, you don't want to buy injured players anyway, to be fair, so maybe not. But yeah, as you were saying that then, that's all I could think of was, I feel like he's a kind of guy that he's probably not going to hit 8s and 9s, but he's only going to be 6s and 7s, and sometimes you need that reliability.
Yeah, it's true, but I don't know, because do you think Ineos will put pressure on themselves with the January to go quite crazy with the investment in the summer?
I think they're putting themselves under a lot of pressure all over the place. Now, on some hands, on some of the angles, I do think you've got a requirement for us to cost cut. And I saw there was redundancies yesterday. As on top of the players aren't being happy, there's redundancies that have got to happen, even more redundancies that have got to happen on top of everything else. And you think, man, how can we on one hand be expecting like a £300 million window, but we're sacking a window cleaner? How do them things live in the same universe? Do you know what I mean?
It's true.
How are you cutting 40 grand for one of the ex-players' charities, but going to sign a new £75 million striker in the summer? Like, that money almost... Like, I know you have to look after the pennies to look after the pounds, but actually throwing a sausage down the street at times here, like, it ain't doing anything.
But that's what was mentioned in that article that I did read. It was more so these cost cuttings, even though they seem a bit tedious and marginal, they're being used to kind of invest more into the first team side of things. So maybe there is, because the issue is, as outside the optics don't look great, but we're not in the books at Manchester United. We're not in those. We don't know what needs to be done. A lot of these things that Ineos are doing might seem necessary. The thing that irked me was, I thought, how much does it swing the pendulum of like cancelling Christmas dues for the staff when
not putting on one coach to Wembley.
Yes, when you have paid £4-5 million to get rid of Dan Ashworth.
Yeah.
After basically bringing him in for 6 months, and it's thinking, for literally what 1% of that could have sorted out your staff for Christmas as a thank you. It's just a bit like, yeah.
There's so many things where you go, okay, and then even the things like we've just signed Dorgu. If we paid 1 million more than we wanted to with him there. That's so many members of staff.
Someone's put there in the chat, 100 people is around 4 million a year, they're guessing. Do you reckon? That sounds a bit...
Not the way United pay, I don't think it is. Let's have a look.
100 people is not £4 million a year for staff at United. Because that's suggesting that the people are on 400 grand a year working for United, which is not the case.
No.
I'm not gonna. The honest truth is, there'll be people working on United that are on less than someone that's, I don't know, a desk manager at Morrison's, or do you know what I mean? So
yeah, that presumes they're all on 40 grand a year. I think you'd be surprised at the salaries of your ordinary workers at United. United are a kind of notorious not great payers, because a lot of what they traded on was you wearing the badge, you're getting United on your CV. Like, it is very much a stepping stone company because of who it is, and also some of the perks of being a United fan.
Well, it's funny,
you get to apply for cup final tickets, not anymore. You get travel down to thingy, not anymore. Like, all of those little reasons why you might put up with maybe not great wages, they're getting eroded in the Christmas bonuses and things like that. Probably have players come down and hang out for stuff like that. But
it was 40k a year, not 400. You know what? My mental maths was off there. My mental maths is usually, it's a strong point of mine. I'm not gonna lie, so I kind of flopped with that one. But yeah, wages aren't like a crazily high at companies like that when they do have the selling point of basically saying you're working for Manchester United. It's the same with places. Big companies do usually have that leverage of not having to pay as much as you might think, because people are going to be like, it's all right, I can actually say that I'm working for this place, and they kind of leverage on that.
Especially when you're a United fan. No matter what you're doing, if you're a chef, because there's probably a lot of chefs working at United because of the hospitality and all that sort of stuff, you go, I'll work at United. You'd probably earn more if you worked in one of the restaurants in town, but you're working at United. If you're one of the chefs in the canteen at Carrington, you get to see the players every day. People would do that over a more higher paying job because of the satisfaction of and the enjoyment of their job, especially if you're a big United fan. Think of some of them security guards. I can't imagine United paid loads for the security guards, but you get to say hello to the players every morning. Some people would take that job because of that perk and less money than they would, being on a building site somewhere looking after that of an evening.
But
you
just got to trust that they actually know what they're doing, because when it comes to the summer, because those extra few million might be important in terms of getting us over the line with a signing that we might need. So all Ineos have done with the cost cutting and the things that they've kind of done from a public relations standpoint, which haven't been great for them, is they have no choice but to go big in the summer window, because if they don't, it's going to look worse, and it's going to get a lot worse for them, and the pressure will start to rise, because Manchester United have a lot to do from a squad composition standpoint. And as I've always said, United aren't operating in a vacuum either. So United can improve and not really move forward.
And not go up the table.
100%. Yeah. People forget that,
We did that. I think I said that a while ago, where...
Yeah.
What season was it? I can't remember what season it was, but I was like, I think we can go... I think it might have been one of the Ollie ones, where I was like, we can improve here and actually go backwards because other people can leapfrog you because they've improved more. And you've always got a weirdness with Chelsea. Chelsea are so feast and famine. Like, Chelsea can literally look like title contenders one season and be 13th the next. They're mental. Like, I don't understand how it works there. no wonder they're all off the nut. But yeah, it's one of them, innit? It's
So Matthew,
it's a long situation.
So Matthew Baker says you don't become a billionaire by spending money. No chance of spending big in a summer. No chance. I don't know how necessarily I agree with the first part of that, because I'm pretty sure you don't become a billionaire without taking chances, though.
Also,
so, like,
why did Jim Ratcliffe buy into Manchester United? The words he says is he did it for the glory, right?
Yeah.
He's spent hundreds of millions of pounds to put money into Manchester United to get involved in running the club, okay? There is no way you look at the finances of Manchester United and think that there's any more money to be extracted out of Manchester United. It's only going to cost. So why did he get... Like, you don't become a billionaire if you're that daft. How are you making money on Manchester United right now? When they owe what they owe. I don't think you are. He's put in, what, something like 300 mil so far? Cool. Double that. How's he getting that back out? Oh, no, you're not getting that back out. I mean, getting that back out.
I mean, the Glazers are laughing at the moment, innit?
Oh, the banks that run out loans are. They're the only people that... The Glazers have made some money, right? But do you know who the people are that have made the most money out of this? JP Morgan is probably the people that have made the most money out of Manchester United. Or whoever our loan is. Wonga or fucking something.
So what would JP Morgan benefit from an actual full sale from the Glazers then, or not?
Probably not, because their interest payments probably stop, don't they? Although the loan's probably agreed in whatever, in it.
Because if not, do you think JP Morgan and what we know about big, huge, trillionaire financial companies and the kind of dodgy power and influence that they have over the world, not full conspiracy, but a little bit, can JP Morgan just be like putting pressure on the Glazers to not ever full sell, like not to do a full sell?
I don't think that's a thing. No, I don't think that they would. I don't think they have meetings like that. But I think that there's obviously a pathway laid out for your interest payments and your capital repayments and how much the club owes, and there'll be people that are making projections based on that. I don't know. Because when it gets to them sorts of, like, United owe about $1 billion. Imagine that. Imagine sitting there in a meeting and someone's like, you owe us a 1 and then like 9 O's behind it, 0.00. And you go, cool. And you go, when you paying that back? And you go, probably never. And they go, cool.
Is it just gets getting pushed further and further and further away? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. In the end, all I care about is that United actually start to make steps forward. If that doesn't necessarily mean that we leapfrog people, who knows? But I've always been of the belief that if we make a little bit of an incremental improvement, we might not see big steps because other teams around you can improve as well. Teams can leapfrog you a little bit more. But there's something about Manchester United, it might be the hope that kills, where it feels like if we do get a lot right at once, we can make a bigger jump than you realise. And I think...
I don't know.
I'm leaning on to something.
Doesn't give me the hope and optimism that that's going to be the case. I'm hoping... I think a lot of people at the moment have seen their arse with Ineos because it kept the Glazers around. The bottom line is they're the only ones who actually made a bid. Like, the other bids might not have been real, or they didn't show proof of funds, or whatever it was, they didn't buy us. So there's no point looking across the lake and going, oh, Elon Musk, oh, Qatar. They didn't buy us. There's no point, like, you wasting everyone's energy going, we should have been bought by Qatar. Like we had a fucking choice and we chose this option. We didn't choose the Glazers either. You know what
Imagine
I mean?
Elon Musk.
I was on the fucking protest 20 years ago saying, we don't want this lot to buy us, it's going to go tits up. 20 years ago.
Imagine though, Elon Musk. I couldn't imagine that because he's well off it. Do you know what I mean? So that would have
made we would have had so much news to cover every day though. Because he tweets unhinged. So
he would have literally just said,
buying Bellingham.
We're buying Bellingham, and then tagged him or something like that.
Yeah.
But being dead serious, that would have been insane.
Yeah. So like, People that would be like, oh, we should have been bought by Qatar. We didn't have the choice. The same way we didn't have the choice that the Glazers actually bought us. We did not have a choice. So shut up, because there's no point talking about what we should have done when we didn't even... One, we didn't make the decision, and two, we didn't have a choice in that decision. So there's no point even fucking talking about it. With the situation we're in is the situation we're in. Is there a pathway through to getting rid of the Glazers by Jim Radcliffe and Ineos? I fucking hope so. Because, okay, he's kept them around. Okay, he's done a hell of a lot of stuff where everyone goes... That's not a great look. But what we're looking at is the process and not the result. The result might be good. But we're going through a situation that we may have had to go through, regardless. They're the guys that are getting painted as the bad guy because they're having to make the tough decisions that does sacrifice some stuff, that does get rid of some people. You know, we might have been looking at a bloated wage bill. We might have been staring at bankruptcy, that we owe $1 billion and might not be able to fucking pay it all off. You know, how do you do all of those things and compete on the pitch? I don't know if you can.
It's a good point, to be fair. It's a good point. But Ben says, how is he off it in terms of Elon Musk? And he follows it with, do you mean he is not a lefty? I don't know what hand he writes with. And and for two, it wasn't nothing to do with his political inclination. It was just to do with Elon Musk. And he just comes across quite...
Yeah, he comes across unhinged
and a bit strange. That's it.
You can't look at him and think that's totally acceptable and normal behaviour on all levels. There's no way you look at that and don't think he's a bit of a fucking weirdo.
It's nothing to do with his views. I just feel like any time I've seen anything of him, he just looks like he's a bit of an odd character. Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily in a bad way.
I think that's a perfectly rational take.
I think that's a rational take. I don't know. He looks quite peculiar to me. Do you know what I mean? He's a character, to say the least. But so I don't think that would have went well.
Chain of Light Production says the players don't like the formation because they have to work harder in possession and out of possession. It's a shame these guys are paid so much and give excuses like this. Ruben says, hate the bastard, but it would distract all the focus from the players and manager. Listen, there is no doubt in my mind that it would be mad entertaining. Not necessarily good, not necessarily bad, but my God, would we have a lot to talk about. Because he comes up with mad shit, doesn't he? So someone's gone, if we built a fucking tunnel from fucking like London to New York, because loads of people want that, don't they? Like, someone was like, it would cost us 20 trillion to do it. Like, for starters, you could end everything, like hunger, homelessness, everything. But instead, someone wants to build a fucking tunnel to save a few hours on a flight. It's not a fucking hard flight. Is it 8 hours to get to New York? Is fine. It's a totally acceptable amount of time to spend flying 3,000 fucking miles, right? Then he goes, we could probably do it for 20 billion. What? So you can imagine the shit that he'd be saying about Old Trafford.
I can't imagine. Like, even someone said, Ronaldo, you don't have to justify a soft spot for Elon. I really, really don't have a soft spot for that guy at all. So but I just, you know what's me? I actually just don't care about him. Do you know what I mean? And anything that I've ever seen about him just comes across as really strange and odd. And he does things that says things I don't agree with, but I don't really care about him enough. But I just think him.
I think calling him odd is really fucking on the nose.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not getting into him.
There's a couple of super chats there. One from Gabe says, any system's crap without intensity. I'd agree with that. And then there's one from Sirius which says, when you say the team is not as good as it seems, they expect us to be where we are now before the season has started, not 8th or around, but 13th. No, that's way worse than I expected us to be. Way worse than I expected us to be. But then, you know, I am actually an optimist. I know people think I'm dead negative, but I'm not. I am pretty optimistic all times. I didn't expect Marcus Rashford to be exiled and fucked off. I hope that there'd be progression from Højlund, and there's not been. I hope that there would be progression from Garnacho, and there's not been. I hope that Xerxes wouldn't be as bad as he's been. Like, I'm an optimist. We just haven't, we've got no goals in us.
Yeah, and then goals win games, and goals are one thing that you always attribute to Manchester United. So that's been one of the big problems as well. But another thing I wanted to ask you about, though, Steve, before we miss out, I don't know if there's a read coming or something soon. But anyway,
actually, yeah, go on then. Let's do the read first. But we got a sponsor, so let's hit the sponsor,
and then I'll go back.
Right, lads, look, we have all been there, pushing yourself hard in the gym. You're eating clean, you're trying to go to bed early, you're trying to not doom scroll on your phone, you're on top of things. But sometimes, no matter how hard you try, it can feel like your body just isn't responding. You're tired all the time, you can't keep your energy up, or you find it hard to stay motivated. If that sounds familiar, well, it might be more than just stress or a busy lifestyle. I've been there myself. While ago, started noticing that things were not firing on all cylinders. Energy levels were in the dumps, could not recover properly after workouts, and not only that, had no motivation to go and do a workout, struggling to focus, and I knew something wasn't right. I took action. I tried an at-home testosterone blood test. It was quick, it was easy, and you do it right in your house. When the results came back, turned out I had low testosterone. And 1 in 4 men over 30 are dealing with low testosterone. And what's worse, 90% of us don't even know it. Low energy, poor sleep, low motivation. These aren't just signs of getting older. You could be dealing with the symptoms of low testosterone. And it's easy to get a low testosterone test from Manual. My results came back. They were a massive wake-up call, but the team were there to guide you through every single step of the way. They provide clear understanding of the next steps. They create a tailored plan to suit your needs. And with the testosterone replacement therapy service, you can experience a boost in energy, better workout performance, and a renewed sense of focus and motivation. Lads, if you are experiencing any of the things that I have said, struggling with your workouts, just not feeling like you, bit of brain fog, don't wait. Have a go. Take action. The Manual Low Testosterone Replacement Therapy Service is here to get you back to your best. It's time to stop letting low testosterone hold you back. The difference it made for me is absolutely huge. And I'll go off on a tangent here and I'll say, if you are a veteran, you are particularly susceptible to this. We've done what we had to do. We've done the tours. And a lot of the time, your body goes, this dude's had enough of the fighting. If you are a veteran especially, or if you've had a particularly rough job, I would absolutely be looking into this. If you're just a bloke that's in your 30s, you've got a high-stress job, or you're hitting any of the symptoms that I've mentioned, it's worth a go. It's definitely worth checking out. Now I can get you 45% off your at-home testosterone blood test. All you got to do is use the code Stephen45, that's STEPHEN 45, or click the link in the description and take control. Get your energy, your focus, your motivation back and start feeling like the best version of yourself again.
Make sure to go check that out. Link for that will be in the description. You can save yourself a right wad on that as well. Right, so you got a question for us?
All right, so the question that I was going to pen to you is, it did have a little bit of a storm, and it was Paul Scholes and how he basically made the suggestion that the loss of Martinez isn't like as big as we're making out, because he believes even when he's fit, he's not sure whether he's all that great. I'm very paraphrasing that, and then there was a response to it basically from Martinez, basically defending himself, and people were happy that Martinez defended himself, because the general gist of the whole concept in question was there's been a little bit of a thing where fans feel as though the ex-legends of Manchester United are overly critical of the current players, and they're not very protective of them when doing their punditry. Do you believe it's just one of them where, being a pundit, sometimes you need to be a little bit impartial and just be honest with what you feel like the standards is for the club, or do you think they do over-egg it a little bit in terms of like Gary Neville sometimes, Paul Scholes,
I think it's both.
Roy Keane when they're talking about
both. You would like them to be protective and giddy and excited, but then when Rio did, he got rinsed. Joe for the contract on the table. Like United won't. What was it he said? United won't thank me for saying this, but put the contract on the table, get him to sign it. He's at the wheel. Like Rio gets rinsed for that, but that was him being enthusiastic and being a fan. I think Keane and Scholes are quite critical, but I think that comes from having like super high standards and probably being a little bit frustrated at the level that they're at. If Keane and Scholes was coming out and going, oh, United look class. They don't. They don't look class. Like, you can't, like I said to myself, I get told I'm negative all the time. I don't have anything to be positive about with this United team. We are 13th, do you know what I mean?
Listen, Steve, that last season, especially the drab parts on the Ten Hag, we would see Manchester United put in some of the worst performances that you've ever seen. That I've seen in my lifetime for Manchester United. Performance after performance, the vibes, and then you'd come and do content or be on a podcast, and you'd deliver your opinion, and it was just constant. Everyone was like, "Oh, Ronnie's negative and this and that," and I'm like, What on earth? What is there to be positive about? There's nothing at all with Manchester United to be positive about. And when you basically, for your livelihood, are there to talk about Manchester United and how they're doing, sometimes people don't like it if you aren't echoing their own opinions or their own almost like toxic positivity at times. And that used to absolutely do my head in last season, especially when we were just awful. And then you come in and say, "Oh, United are awful," and then it was like, "Wow, you're being negative." I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I also
think that sometimes the broadcasters, like Liverpool lose to Plymouth this weekend, and TalkSport spend no time whatsoever analysing that in the slightest. Whereas if United had lost that, they'd have cancelled all programming for a month and just gone full ham on every single aspect of that game.
They are more anti-United, but it's also the element of, like, I think Liverpool have lost 3 games all season.
No, it's not. It's not just that. When United do something successful, like United win a cup, and there's still a negative spin on United winning a cup from certain broadcasters. They spend no time celebrating anything that United do. I think they move on very quickly from any positive performance, any positive. Look at United have had some positive transfers. You don't see any positive coverage of those transfers. It's only the flops and the negativity on them. So I think the broadcasters have a bit of a hand in it.
Yeah.
Coach says, I was playing EAFC last night. It's pathetic. The Aston Villa team looks more like a United roster than the United roster does. These players are turning on a manager. So those players, it's cut off.
I think, you know what he did? He pressed enter, pressed send.
And he sent it.
And he sent it.
Sorry, mate.
Sorry, bro.
What was you trying to say? So those players eat cheese. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of cheese.
What?
Don't like cheese at all, actually, funny enough. That was always something that people thought was quite odd about me.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Is that really odd?
It was only that's odd about you. Yeah, you're right.
Nah, but realistically though, is it? Do more people like cheese than don't like cheese?
Cheese is amazing. Cheese is top.
See, Spencer's also equally weird. I was not cheese, man.
Anyways,
but only on pizza.
Right, we're wrapping it up. Go check out Manual if you've got any of those symptoms. Hang on, Coach Zach was another super chat. He says, "I blame our situation." I'm not even reading that out. Sorry, mate. Cheers for tuning in as always, everyone. Make sure to give Ronnie a follow on Twitter. He's an Arsenal antagonist. If you're into that sort of stuff. Cheers, everyone else. Take it easy. See you in a bizzle. Later.
See you later.
Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.